Hello, America. You're about to listen to a real-life story encounter in which I had with a foreign spy. The only reason I am doing this podcast is because of information that I was given after it's incubated in me for 2 years. Everything he said to me is revealing itself as the truth. One Sunday afternoon, I was working a table at a flea market. I had set up a bunch of my friend's stuff. And his stuff consisted of Chinese spy junk, pens, cameras, weird little things, glasses with cameras in them. An older, very short and lovable, kindly, warm-hearted type British gentleman approached my table and picked up the spy pen. He said, I have two of these. One of them is German and one of them is British, and the British one is superior by far. I told him that Chinese one would probably not last a week. The gentleman introduced himself. His name is Dr. John Coleman. And he explained that he spent his career as MI5 and MI6, which is British spies 007. But he was exactly the opposite physically of 007, although probably much more effective if you were able to meet Dr. John. And actually, Dr. John has only one thing on YouTube, and it's a video he made in the late 80s, early 90s. And it took me 2 years to watch that video. And everything he says back in 1992 at the latest came true. And as I think about the things that he told me, which were not far outside of what he says in the videotape, are extremely disturbing in today's world. Now, when he taped it, he was very optimistic that we could change this in 20 years. But in great American fashion, none of us have lifted our finger to change anything. And things have just progressively gotten worse. The key parts to what Dr. John explained to me that day was that there has never been a president of the United States that was elected. Everyone was selected, and they were selected through the people who were able to put their secret society sign in the streets of Washington. It's through the Freemasons. Dr. John has written a book called The Committee of 300, and this book was banned in the United States, impossible to get in the United States, until Amazon. And when I looked his book up that day on Amazon, there was one copy for sale for $225. Now Dr. John's book is more readily available, but the information in it is very, very dire to your children's life experience after you're gone. Dr. John was working in Africa, and he was he was helping to build infrastructure. He explained to me, in a small African country, and in so doing, instilling a democratic society. Now, Dr. John, who was MI5, or possibly MI6 by this time, because I believe MI6 is exterior outside of the country, and he was given a folder of papers in a briefcase that he was not supposed to receive. A spy from another country was to meet someone at this office, and they gave Dr. John something that someone else was supposed to receive. Dr. John looked through the file and found out that he was actually helping to build a socialist government that can easily be controlled by the Queen herself. That this was actually just an extension of the British government, imperial government, not the British Parliament, but the Queen herself. Dr. John also explained to me that America never gained its freedom. Independence Day doesn't really exist. Now, we believe it does, and the historical books say it does. But who has decided to put people in power has not. Dr. John has explained to me that the documents in place, that the Constitution and such, those documents are really our only way to get out of this mess. But each month since I've talked to Dr. John, I've seen the Constitution disappear. The Bill of Rights, there's 10 articles in the Bill of Rights. Only 3 of them still exist. This is not the America that you were born in, but your perception is that it is. Perception is not reality. Dr. John was there to give me true reality of the world that I live in, not the perceived reality, which is the one that has a 4th of July in it, your reality. Dr. John has explained to me that we can take this country back without going to war with our own government. But as long as you've got your iPhone, there's very little chance that's going to happen. Dr. John explained how the ranking of power goes from the Queen to the President of the United States. And you'll be very surprised to find out that the chairman of J.P. Morgan Bank, Chase Bank, is second in command, and the Speaker of the House is third in command, and the President of the United States is number 4. Ironically, after I started looking at what Dr. John said, he points towards the central bank. And in 2000, there were 7 countries that were not in the central bank. After 9/11, which I personally believe in my heart was caused specifically by Dick Cheney, follow the money, $48 billion Dick Cheney, no bid Dick Cheney, Halliburton putting him to work Dick Cheney, personally took down those buildings because I was watching it live on TV and I saw the Today Show very clearly zoom into the second plane, and it was light blue and had no windows. It was an Army plane. It was a United States military plane that hit that second tower, and a lot of people know that. Try to find that second plane hitting the tower on YouTube. You're not going to do it. But people have that footage. It is out there, and every once in a while it gets reposted. And when it gets reposted, it's time to grab it and take it down. But I don't want this to be a podcast that goes on forever. But what needs to be said and learned in this podcast, foremost and most importantly, is that we never purposely put in a Freemason in office. Although there's really no way around it, because when you go to vote, you'll notice the election judges all wear Freemason rings. You will notice that those election machines were made by companies owned by Freemasons. The election is not won in a country. It's won one district at a time. And your local district is run by Freemasons. Now, these often are do-gooders because the Freemason society is not dirty until you hit 33 1/3. Everybody below that mark is a public servant. You're out to go help the public, which is their way of looking good out in society. The top 33%, the core of the Freemasons, to back up, Freemasons take responsibility and pride for building Babylon. And the story really starts earlier. It starts with Eve. The Freemasons boast their bloodline going back to when, if you're a Christian, this is going to freak you out, when Satan had sex with Eve before Adam was created, the birth of Cain. The Freemasons are the political arm of secret society. Illuminati are the money side, the Rothschilds. Okay, so that would put Freemasons would be the Sinclair family. That would be the family, the Bowers, that moved to the land of the Vikings, changed their name to Sinclair, started this new secret society, brought that back to France. This is the group that has constantly, biblically, ruled the earth and then complete lost power and then completely ruled the earth under a very strict. Now we're going through that cycle again, and we are moving towards a new world order. And have you wondered why? Every Democrat and Republican president has said in their acceptance speech, a new world order. Everybody says it. The reason why is because Dr. John completely convinced me that there's no such thing between Democrat and Republican. Those are false groups that were indoctrinated to give you something to fight about and focus on and pick a team and stop paying attention to the big picture. Don't notice that 7 of the 10 articles of the Bill of Rights no longer exist. You're more worried about Hillary Clinton lying and not going to jail. Let me explain something to you. The Queen of England told Bill Clinton 2 years before he was elected that he was going to be the next president of the United States. Bill Clinton said, I won't. My wife left me. The Queen had a meeting with Hillary Clinton. Now, actually, Queen directly didn't speak to her, but the Queen's handler spoke to Hillary and said, you go back to your husband and you will be the First Lady of the United States. She went back and she became the First Lady of the United States. Hillary Clinton can blow up a school bus of retarded, blind, crippled children from an impoverished part of America, and she will still become president of the United States because your vote does not count at all. When it comes to the president of the United States, your vote does not count. Dr. John Coleman has explained this clearly to me. If you'd like to take the time and go on YouTube and look for his hour-and-a-half video and end up becoming a different person at the end of it, I invite you to do that. If you want to look into these subjects microscopically from week to week with me, I invite you to do that. But when you go to the voting booth, please don't think for a moment that your candidate is going to win unless she is married to a Freemason. Yes, the guy who brought us the free trade agreement, which isn't free at all, which is a one-way street, is the highest ranking Freemason in the United States, next to who? Dick Cheney. Now, those dudes are blood brothers in a secret society. Do you think their political affiliation is going to overpower that? No. And my heart goes out to everyone who lost someone on 9/11. But 9/11, do not go to bed tonight thinking that 5 or 6 Muslims, by the way, 3 of those Muslims are alive and well today that flew those planes. Don't think for a second that that was caused by Muslims. That was war on America against Muslims. That was war on America from Dick Cheney. That is who brought you 9/11. That was a self-attack. You follow the money. All good investigators, they follow the money. And they always get their guy. 2 people won that day. There were 7 countries that were not part of the central banking system before on 9/10. September 10th, there were 7. After 9/11, 2. North Korea and Iran. Those other 5 got scooped up. And it appears to me within 6 to 18 months of any country we go to war with, going back to Korea, they become part of the central banking system too. It's a slow boil, and we're losing because we don't see the slow boil. Every day you lose a right in America. If Bill Clinton took away all of our industry, what is his wife going to take? I'm not voting because I know it doesn't count. I don't know anything about Trump, and to be honest with you, I turned my television off on March 18th, 2010. I literally walked around all day 2 months after Osama bin Laden had been shot and told everybody I didn't know. But me taking my time, me stepping out of this vicious bullshit circle of media that you live in has allowed me to see what is going on. And thanks to Dr. John Coleman, I understand what I'm seeing. And before he walked away, he said that a very tall, thin man wearing a baseball cap was going to approach my table and check me out after he walks away. He said that this man is a retired general and he's paid to follow Dr. John around. Now, Dr. John is not an enemy of the United States, but he is a spy, so I guess they got to keep an eye on him. Dr. John was like, I'm aware of him, he's aware of me. We're not hiding from each other. He just has to follow me around. So the little charming British man walked away, and a little bit longer than I thought it would take the guy to come check me out. He showed up. I thought it would take 1 or 2 minutes. It was probably 3 to 5 minutes. And this gentleman walks up, and his baseball hat is a military baseball hat, like you see a lot of vets wearing. And I looked at him and I said, "Good morning, General." And I don't know if it was the look the general gave me or just the realization of everything that just happened is now concreted in reality that made me feel very, very strange, to make me uncomfortable, maybe is the word. That this America, it's not the same America that I had when I was a kid. And if it's going to go, I'm going to bitch and scream about it. And if you're going to sit there and stare at your iPhone and do nothing, that's your choice too. If you would like to see the Dr. John Coleman video, I will have a link to it below in my show notes. Peace and love worldwide.
You know, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage. Just literally 20 seconds of just embarrassing bravery. And I promise you, something great will come of it.